All right. Ralph Morgan's dedication and service to the United States Army exemplify the highest ideals of duty, honor, and sacrifice. With unwavering commitment, he stood ready to defend our nation, embodying the resilience and courage that define the American soldier. His contributions, both in uniform and beyond, reflect a deep love for country and an enduring legacy of selflessness. Today, we honor and thank Al Gordon for his service, recognizing the sacrifices he made to protect the freedom we hold dear. His impact will not be forgotten, and his example will continue to inspire generations to come. On behalf of the President of the United States, the Department of the Army, and a grateful nation, then this is why I believe in the nation and the Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lunch, and there's a blessing that we say before we eat. Translated, it means blessed are you out of line. It's a nice word we say when we say God's actual name. We never say bless you out of God brings forth bread from the earth. And people comment on this that bread doesn't come from the earth. Bread has to have the involvement of people. So in a way, this blessing encapsulates what was so much part of Alan's life and part of our lives. That namely, in order to get good things, we start with raw material, but we humans have to make them into things that we can actually use and make the world a better place. So I will just say blessing. You get full credit if you say one Hebrew word at the end. You all know this word. It is Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamosi lechem in Amen. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch.
Leo.
Baruch Hashem Adonai. Blessed be the name of God's name. I'm Rabbi Michael Lochter, and it is my honor to officiate at this celebration of Al's life. There are a number of things which are puzzling about this kind of Jewish service. We begin with one of them. In ancient times, in rabbinic times, in biblical times, a fine morning was to tear one's garments. Today we do that symbolically by tearing your ribbon. That's not so puzzling. What puzzles many, though, is the blessing that we say on tearing your ribbon. Translated, it means blessed are you Adonai. Adonai, once again, is a Hebrew word which means Lord. We say in the place of God's central name that we never say. Blessed are you Adonai, our God, ruler of everything, the true judge. So people will often ask me, Rabbi, how is it we can declare God a true judge at these difficult times? Perhaps one answer is when it would be so difficult to do so spontaneously, our tradition fortifies our spiritual backbone by requiring us to do so. So I'll ask the family members that are wearing a ribbon to join me right here. If you're able to stand, please stand. So, please see that for me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. I'm ready to tear from the bottom. I just need to tear it a little bit. I can help you. So you can start here.
You did.
Let me see. Death is taken our beloved Alan. Our friends grieve in their darkened room. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Alan's love that unites us in light which death cannot sever. For companionship that we shared alone life fed, which continues to the tenderness of memory. For the gift of his heart and mind of what is joy and happiness, that is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more we give thanks to God. It's this time of we listen to the voice of our sacred scripture that brings us together the message of God's nearness. It tells of our attention to the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in light as in death. From the book of Ecclesiastes. L'chol zman ba'et, l'chol chavetz, hachat hashemaim, eit laledet, ve'et lamut. For everything there is a season, and a time for experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to throw stone and a time to gather stone. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embrace. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to discard. A time to care and a time to say. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. From a more modern source, Rabbi Belden Kahn. Birth is the beginning and death the destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing, from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age. From innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often backwards. From help to sickness, and back we pray to help them. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding. From fear to faith. From defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not in some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred goal, birth to the beginning and death to destination. A life is a journey, a sacred goal, made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. You know, a traditional reading for moments like this is the 23rd Psalm. Irrespective of what you might think about the Hebrew Bible, from a Jewish point of view, we don't think of the Psalms as the Word of God. God would not say, "The Lord is my shepherd." There are 150 Psalms. There are Psalms for all moments. The Psalms are model prayers. There are Psalms for times of great joy and gratitude. They ring up the words, Hallelujah, praise God. There are Psalms for times of doubt, times of longing, for times of loneliness. And this one for a time of mourning. This psalm is also the subject of a small book by Rabbi Harold Kushner, who's best known for his book When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Rabbi Kushner has written a beautiful little book simply called The Lord is My Shepherd. And we image God as a shepherd because we need caring for, both individually and collectively as a flock. Our tradition is not naive. We don't deny the existence of evil, but we affirm that with God and family and friends, we need not fear evil. We don't deny the existence of death, but we affirm that although death can take someone out of our future, it can never take someone out of our hearts and out of our minds and out of our memories. We affirm that if we could truly count our blessings, the question is not whether our cups are half empty or half full, but they in fact overflow with blessings. And goodness and mercy not only follow us in the usual English translation of this psalm, but the Hebrew uses a stronger verb than doth. Goodness and mercy pursue us all the days of our life. Sometimes we just need to slow down a bit and let them catch up with us. There is a wonderfully subtle message in the grammatical structure of this psalm, both in the original Hebrew and in the familiar translation, which I will read in a moment. As the psalm opens, God is spoken of in the third person. He maketh me, he leadeth me, he restoreth my soul, and so on. When we get to the crucial moment in this psalm, when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and notice that the psalm speaks of getting through that valley. Our tradition affirms that those who have passed on get through the valley into another form of existence after death, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But we also get through the valley of deepest darkness into a time of sweeter and more poignant memories. And at this moment in the psalm, the grammatical person of God shifts. I will fear no evil, for thou, for you are with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And thou and thy are interesting English words. They're archaic English, but they are the familiar form of you. So you may know in Spanish and French and other Romance languages, there are two forms of the word you. There's the formal form, in Spanish usted, and the familiar form in Spanish tú. And in Old English, the English of King James, the word you was the formal form, and thou was the familiar form. So once we get into this moment, when we are here now, when we need God, when we need God's presence, God's compassion, God's community, God's caring, God's love, rather than intellectualizing about God as a distant third person, God becomes a much more intimate thou, a much more intimate second person. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In his sorrow, the biblical character Job cried out, Adonai natan, Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Baruch. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. In ancient people, we are well acquainted with Greek and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength and vigor. When Job is Adonai natan, God, you have given. You gave us a love one will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love, as we now say, Yehi Shem Adonai Baruch. Blessed be the name of God now and forever. I only got to know Alan through the words of his daughter, Leanne, and you will hear her speak about her dad in just a few minutes. I know he was loving and loved. I also know that it's especially appropriate to have this celebration of his life here in Spanish Hills Country Club, as he was one of the founders of this facility. Alan will be missed by his beloved wife of some 52 years as Diana, by his sister Shelley, by his daughters Leanne, married to Darryl, and Jessica, married to Brian, and by his grandchildren Dylan, Lily, Henry, and Liam. He will also be missed by his nephew Jeffrey, who was more like a son to him. In a moment, you'll hear Leanne talk about his death. The other night, when I read the text that she sent me, it reminded me of something that was taught to me by a teacher of Kabbalah, who once said, and this was many years ago, he said, I believe in artificial intelligence when you ask a computer a question and the computer responds by saying, that reminds me of a story. There's nothing more human than stories. And today's all about Alan's stories. So this all about Grant.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Ryan. Okay. Okay. Oh, I have to be Jessica now. Okay, that's awesome. Okay. Okay. I dreaded this moment for the entirety of my life. And when we did the family text, I just really put it out there who was going to eulogize Dad. I said it had to be me. And the reason is I co-did my own dad. So here goes nothing. And let me take another drink of this drink. Okay, here we go. Okay, to quote one of the greatest films of all time, The Sandlot, Remember, kid, there are heroes and there are legends. Heroes get remembered, but the legends never die. And today, I face the impossible task of capturing the life of a legend, our legend, in just a few moments. But if there's anything Dad taught me, it's that the best stories deserve to be told in full, with laughter, heart, and the warmth that they deserve. So here we go. In so many ways, Dad's childhood mirrored the Sandlot, a sun-drenched, mischievous childhood adventure set against the backdrop of Los Angeles. He grew up in a neighborhood filled with friends and an extensive Jewish family that gathered for every occasion and holiday. He had loving parents, Leo and Selma, Argini and Poppy, a wonderful older sister, Shali, and his best friend, his little brother, and lifelong sidekick, Chief. One afternoon years ago, we were in LA for some event, and Dad mentioned that we were near his childhood home on Orange Drive. He wanted to drive by, so we took a short detour as Jessica and I rolled our eyes. As we pulled up, and his eyes opened in disbelief. "No way," he said, pointing at the front yard. "We planted those trees with my dad 60 years ago." There, standing tall in the front yard, were 2 towering Los Angeles palm trees, a living testament to the childhood that he cherished. For a moment, Dad was a kid again. And then, in classic Dad fashion, he leaned right into one of the many stories we had all heard a million times, but loved just the same. It was the infamous Dad's donut story. Dad and Uncle Gene, ages 9 and 11, had seen Giggy making homemade donuts so many times that they figured, how hard could it be? They mixed the dough, they heated up a pan of hot oil, and they got to work. Everything was going great until Dad tried to move the pan without an oven mitt. And in an instant, the scalding oil slipped from his hands, hitting the kitchen floor, and burning perfectly a round donut frying pan-sized hole in the linoleum floor in the kitchen. Their solution to this nightmare? Cover the kitchen rug. They go over the hole. As if Giggy, the woman who ran a household with an iron will, wouldn't even notice. Another Ellen tale was the time that Uncle Gene attempted a heroic fence jump, just like in the Sandlot, only to end up, well, let's just say, impaled in a very unfortunate place. Naturally, Dad had to be the one to pull his poor, bleeding little brother off the fence and march him home, likely reversing excuses the whole way. These were the stories Dad repeated millions of times. Then there was the legendary Passover incident. Because why celebrate freedom when you can throw yourself off a second-story bathroom window? While playing hide-and-go-seek with his cousins, Dad took a tumble out of a second-story window, breaking half the bones in his body. He proceeded to army crawl to the front door for 30 minutes like a determined action hero. The kicker? He had just gotten his cast off his arm that morning from some other disaster. Timing was not his strong suit. And of course, no greatest hits collection of Dad's childhood would be complete without the infamous Saturday night joyride with Uncle Gene. They took Poppy's car for a spin, puffing away on stolen cigarettes. Lily and Dylan don't listen to that part. When one flick went terribly wrong. Instead of landing outside, the lit cigarette nestled itself into the back seat like a tiny arsonist. By the time they noticed the smoldering upholstery and Poppy's new car, panic set it. And they made a beeline for the fire station. The sleepy firefighters sprang into action by axing the entire backseat of the car up. Then they said, "You're welcome," and they went back to bed. Then came the real challenge. Dad and Uncle Gene had to drive home and explain to Poppy how the car had mysteriously self-destructed. The last video of Dad I have on my camera is him retelling this story to Dylan while we visited in November. I heard the story by Charles and Trax. These stories weren't just funny. They made Dad real. He was a lovable troublemaker, a walking sitcom, a legend in his own right. And through all the chaos, one thing was clear. Life with Dad was never fixed. After spending his childhood in LA, he went on to attend UCLA before proudly serving in the United States Army Reserve. He always loved to share the story of the one and only time he's ever been drunk. Okay. Driving around on a Saturday night with his army buddies in the back of a friend's Lincoln Continental, laughing and making memories. The fun, however, took a turn when he realized between bouts of nausea that he had to be up in 2 hours of physical training. In a moment, he never forgot a humorous reminder of the camaraderie and adventures that shaped his journey. The other night, Aunt Meg sent me a message that really made me smile. She said, I always say to myself, I don't know where I would be today if they had never met. Of course, she was talking about Mom and Dad. And I chuckled and I wrote back, well, me too. Both just laughed, knowing just how true this really was. Mom and Dad shared an incredible 52 years together, and their story begins in Pittsburgh on a snowy Christmas Eve in 1972. That night, Dad was working at a local restaurant called Top Shelf, while Mom had gone out to meet Uncle Leslie, that's her younger brother, who was home on leave, and another spot called Buddy's. As fate would have it, Bud Stevenson, both Dad's boss and a friend of Mom's, owned Top Shelf. Pittsburgh bars were lively on Christmas Eve, and Buddy's had the latest novelty at the time, telephones in the booths. Dad, in a desperate need of an ice for the bar, called over to Buddy's, and Bud answered. But as he went to check the request, he handed the phone in the booth to my mom. And that's when it all began. Into the receiver, Mom simply said, I like your restaurant. Without missing a beat, Dad replied, I like your voice, and I'm coming right over to meet you. And just like that, their love story began, one that would span more than 5 decades. Mom and Aunt Nancy, my Uncle Buddy's wife in Pittsburgh, were reminiscing a couple of weeks ago about how they first met their husbands, Dad and Uncle Buddy. They were laughing and crying over all the stories. Mom could barely get the words out as she told Aunt Nancy about the time Dad moved in with her and all of her girlfriends after a short meeting in Pittsburgh. Arriving with nothing but a toothbrush and a whole lot of enthusiasm, living with a bunch of girls. Almost immediately, he took it upon himself to improve their eating habits, introducing a California brown rice and vegetable diet to a bunch of 20-year-old Pittsburgh girls. For nearly a week, the girls humored him, trying their best to embrace this new healthy lifestyle. But on the 6th day, they were all completely over it. And just when they thought they could take another bite, Dad, ever dreamer and problem solver, had already cooked up his next grand idea for them all. The memory of those early days, so full of love, laughter, and Dad's unshakable optimism, made Mom and Aunt Nancy smile in a way that only cherished memories can. During Dad's time in the Burg, he rented an apartment from the Olander family. The apartment barely did justice to the grand old Pittsburgh manor near downtown where the Olander family actually lived. The Olanders were an eccentric, free-spirited, and wild-loving bunch. A house full of kids. Holly, Serva, Echo, Kai, Laus, and Portia. From the moment he met them, Dad was swept up in their world, and they in his. It didn't take long before he was part of the family, an honorary eldest sibling, and their lively, joyful chaos. Echo recently shared a tribute. She sent us a big card with pictures, and all the kids wrote memories about that in it. Of all the memories they have growing up with Dad in their house. To them, he was larger than life, literally, from California. He was the tallest man they had ever seen. And also, he was the first man they had ever known who proudly sported a manicure and a gold watch. And oh, the fashion. Bell-bottom jeans and flared t-shirts. Dad apparently has style, just I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, never know.
You never noticed, yeah. Okay. But it wasn't just his appearance that made an impression. He was Al the kitty's pal, as it was referred in the memories they sent us. Echo vividly remembered the thrill of piling into Dad's giant brown convertible while all 6 kids crammed in, no seatbelts. The gun mansion on Warwood Avenue hitting the big dip in the road, while they all shrieked with laughter, flying into the air like popcorn in Japan. Shelley Park is another favorite haunt, with its winding roads perfect for a daring game. Who could get along the highest from that convertible? They laughed until they cried, exhilarated by the kind of fun only childhood and a carefree spirit can bring. Evenings at the Olander house often found Dad in the nick of the action, hanging out with parents Art and Shirley, while also engaging the kids in the famous money game. With the upstairs light switched off, Dad would stand on the landing between the second and third balloon. He was a personal vocabulary coach too. We all may know something about that. Having impressively read the dictionary for fun, apparently. Grammar drills were a regular occurrence. Some things never changed. Uncle Gene made an appearance in this chapter too, visiting Pittsburgh to see Dad and serenading all the Olander kids with leaving on jet plane on his guitar. A memory that stuck with them all. Dad was a fixture in their home until, of course, he met wife number one. When that happened, the world around him shifted, and though they missed him in their daily adventures, they were thrilled for him to go. Years later, when Dad returned to Pittsburgh for Art's memorial service, the Olander family felt something deeply familiar. His presence, his warmth, his laughter, and of course his stories. He was always, and always will be, the man. Dad's love beyond his family, of course, was his work. His favorite place to be for nearly all of his adult life was behind his desk. Immersed in the world he helped to build. And I'd just like to thank everybody from Kane. Most of these people here have worked with my dad for 30, 40 years. And they all came here today to support us and you know you guys. And we love you. Okay. He cherished his Kane family just as much as his own. As a child, I vividly remember waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a bare day off from school, climbing sleepily into the backseat of my dad's Cadillac and setting off into the dark morning. Our first stop was always a cozy diner where he sipped his coffee and I soaked in the quiet magic of our early breakfast together before heading into his office in El Segundo. There was something enchanting about that office. Perched above the bustling warehouse, filled to the ceiling with boxes of merchandise. All of knows what I'm talking about from legit. To me, it was a world of wonder and adventure. I just didn't visit, I wanted to belong there. I would find an empty desk, raid the office supply closet, and pretend I was somebody important. Okay, tapping away at the typewriter, chatting away with all the ladies in the office like I had real business to attend to. It was clear that King was where Dad thrived, and where he built friendships that spanned the globe and lasted him a lifetime. Just this past fall, Mom and Dad had the joy of spending the day with Uncle Bill and Neil, who had come to visit from Down Under. Their friendship began in 1978 when they met in business in New York City. They ended up sharing a room for Market Week, and from that moment on, their bond was sealed. Nearly 47 years later, Uncle Bill still considered Dad his brother. And he was heartbroken to hear of his passing when I had to call him this January. He wasn't the only one. His other brother, Howard Koff, told me the same thing the night that Dad left us. That for 40 years, Dad had been closer to him than his own brothers. Dad's work took him all over the world, Australia, China, Southeast Asia, Europe, and beyond. One of his favorite stories was of hunting birds in the woods in France with his dear friend Hervé and his pack of hunting dogs. 2 of the dogs got lost one afternoon, only to miraculously find their way home 12 hours later. Dad always loved dogs. But I would say the dogs in this world loved him even more. Our family dogs were as much as his as they were ours. And I know even our dogs today miss him dearly. So I'll tell you off the speech, I brought my dad's car back to Reno shortly after his passing. And I was taking out the trash in early February on a snowy morning, and Champ followed me outside. And he sat down at the drive-thru door of my dad's car. and started scratching on the car because I think he thought Papa was inside. Beyond his career, Dad was the man who embraced life with open arms. His friends from school, still friends with his friends from high school, past jobs, and Hidden Hills treasured his company, welcoming him and Mom into their homes time and time again. I remember as a kid all the dinners we had at Cohen's house. He made a great salad. For that. And Dad sitting on the couch chit-chatting with Jimmy all hours of the night drinking coffee. Whether it was ski trips over the holidays, meetups in cities around the world, fishing adventures, motorcycle trips with his buddies, hardly family Christmases, Dad lived for the experiences that brought people together. He truly had a life well lived. Really still wish he was living. He had one filled with love, laughter, and a deep sense of lasting friendships. After Dad's dad, Leo, or upon he passed away when I was a baby, Dad seamlessly stepped into the role of leading our family's Passover Seder's at Great Aunt Lil's cozy 1,100 square foot house in Los Angeles. Despite the modest space, it somehow always held between 25 and 50 family members for nearly every Jewish holiday. Those gatherings remain some of my most cherished childhood memories. And after talking to Gary and some other people today, it sounds like that's true for all of us here today. Despite the modest space, I just said the part. Where am I? Okay. I remember Jess and I digging through a pile of high heels on the floor of Youngest closet, slipping into shoes way too big for us and feeling like we ruled the world. We spent hours in her sunroom playing at her desk, lost in the magic of childhood alongside all of our cousins. Our family, like all families, had its share of joy and heartbreak. Uncle Gene's sudden passing and the loss of cousin Barbara were unimaginable lows, but somehow through it all, we all grew closer, and we're all here today. Dad was often the lone man in a sea of women, a role he handled with quiet grace. And let's be honest, he probably loved it. He had a deep sense of responsibility as the oldest son, always picking up his mom, Aunt Giggy, along with Aunt Lil and Uncle Seymour, and chauffeuring them to family gatherings without a single complaint. Sometimes he'd make an extra trip into the city just to bring them back to our house in Hidden Hills, never questioning his duty, just embodying it. Throughout the years, he stood by my Aunt Shelley's side, especially after the passing of Uncle Robert. He managed her finances, was her best friend, and was always just one phone call away. He was a mensch. He was a funny mensch. And we all adored him. One of Dad's favorite movie lines of all time, but you mean we're saying it like this. You cut a turkey without me. From the movie Avalon. And in the film, the character arrives late to a New York Jewish Thanksgiving dinner, only to find that the turkey had already been carved. I can't help but feel that Dad would be saying this today. He hated missing anything, especially a gathering of his closest family and friends. Dad didn't want to miss anything. He insisted on being in the delivery room for all three of my children. But thanks to Dylan and Henry making early unplanned entrances, he only made it to one. Lily's C-section. Well, my C-section. How did he spend the moment? In perfect Alan Gordon fashion. He made friends with the doctor, the staff, and he talked to Daryl the entire time about golf. I was laying on the table with a hole in my abdomen. But his most important baby delivery, of course, was Cousin Jeff's. After Uncle Gene's sudden and very tragic passing, Dad stepped into the delivery room with Auntie Laura when Jeff was born. And to this day, somewhere in our massive collection of 10,000 photos, that Mom, thank you for all that, we still have pictures of that moment. Dad made sure to be there for Jeff throughout his life, considering his son. One of his happiest moments was attending Jeff's bar mitzvah in Santa Fe and sending him down a Land Rover to drive. Jeff, please know how much Dad loves you. Sorry. And how much we love you. Nothing. Dad made sure Jess and I had everything we needed and more growing up. He bought us a horse named Cinnamon that stepped on and broke Mom's foot. And a donkey named Annie. Because we have a horse, not donkey. And Toto and Forest and trampolines and rolling lawns. We paid for Jessica's theater, for college, fancy vacations. We had nothing to complain about. We had houses with pools, attended good schools, had nice cars, and we lived an amazing childhood because of his and Mom's hard work and love. We even had the Nordstrom's piano player play at our Christmas party.
Play
I'll read that at John's funeral.
That's so young.
It was bad. But here's the thing. It was Mom, not Dad. But here's the thing. Dad didn't just love his kids. We were all his kids. The neighbors. His kids. Jamie, Chase, and Nick. His kids. His nieces and nephews were his kids. He was the dad of dads. I'll never forget how Dad always came to our rescue. One Sunday morning, when our makeshift lawnmower go-kart broke down a mile from our house in the hills, I had to go to a stranger's house and call Dad with no cell phones mentions. He was there in no time to help Brian, Nick, Jamie, and I rescue our beloved go-kart. And I can still picture him over at Hartley's one afternoon, bravely taking care of a rattlesnake at the wood pile without a second thought. He would have done anything for us kids, always showing up with a heart full of devotion and some cringy dad advice. Dad was literally the ultimate TV dad. They should have wrote a movie about him or his TV show. Yeah, maybe like that. He was the kind that made you and Tanner, the humor of Ray Romano, and just a touch of Tim Allen's movie wisdom. He was the best parts of all of them. But most of all, he was ours. He lived with open arms, embracing every person, every experience, whether it was getting his tooth pulled, repairing a car, waiting on him at a deli, getting a manicure, or playing around golf. He was friends with everyone. One of the many random friendships he made along the way was with a small Mexican farmer named Elias. Elias came to work for Daryl and Dad on the ranch about a decade ago. And then he quickly bonded over conversations about planting, harvest, and farm life. I think honestly it was just because Elias would listen to him. That he loved him so much. But a few years back, Elias called Dad. Overwhelmed with pride, he had just received the news that after 22 years in the country, he was finally being granted his American citizenship. Dad not only offered to drive him to the ceremony, but Dad gave him a new suit to wear for the occasion and took him to a fancy lunch downtown. It was a day Dad said he would never forget. That was just the kind of person he was. He would drop anything for anyone happily. And that's how he lived his entire life. He never held grudges. He never sweated the small stuff. He always focused on what mattered. He made the lives of all of us around him easier and better, just by being himself. Mom always said he made all my dreams come true. Last summer, as we sat in his little office together privately, every year I'd go to Dad's office and clean it for him. He was a bit of a worker. Dad cried, and he told me that it had been 39 years since Uncle Gene's passing. I didn't see my dad cry very often. 39 years. And the pain was still very raw. That's the thing about grief, I've learned. It never really leaves us. We carry those we love in the spaces they left behind. And if there's one thing I've learned in the last couple of months, being supported by my mother, which is crazy because I'm trying to support her, my husband, my beloved Carol, our kids who have been incredible, my Lily, the night my dad died, my Lily ran downstairs and wrapped her arms around me. And the following morning, she accompanied me to come be with my mom. And I never thought in a million years I'd have to be supported by my kids. But I love her. Neither did I. My Aunt Mary Lou has been the rock here for this whole thing. And all the good friends that surround us. And it's just that those holes can never be filled. I have realized that we can fill them with the love that we have for the living. So today, let's do what Dad would want us to do. Of course, we need to use correct grammar. We need to peck in the house. We need to pick up a crossword puzzle. Pour ourselves a hot cup of coffee. Watch Home Alone. Eat more popcorn. Enjoy an episode of Jeopardy. Light the cigar and laugh a little louder. Because in the end, that's all there really is. And that's all that life is really all about. Being ourselves. Serving others. And being happy. As recently as a year ago, for Aunt Meg's birthday, my cousin Casey, Dad's nephew, needed a ride from the airport to the luncheon. Casey was surprising Aunt Meg on her birthday. Dad hadn't seen him in quite a while, and he was thrilled to have a morning alone with him to catch up. And of course, look at that Trump. They both love Trump. They spent hours talking about work, politics, and family. Casey later told us, I could have spent days picking Uncle Alan's brain on business ideas. I love every minute I had with them. And I'm just now so happy that they have that. Dad's wisdom wasn't something he kept to himself. It was something he shared freely like a gift. And no one appreciated that advice more than my husband, Daryl. Dee wanted, but ended up becoming his son and his business partner over the last 25 years. Their banter was out of a movie script, often ending with them sarcastically calling each other honey when they would end their phone calls. From their time together on the golf course to working endless hours on produce projects to running numbers for harvest schedules, Dad giving unsolicited parenting and husband advice on how to best manage me. Most days, Daryl would hear me on the phone and ask, who are you talking to, your dad? Why, yes, how did you know? We would both laugh. And the reason we would laugh is because I talked to my dad at least 3 times a day for my entire life. My dad and my mom raised our kids with me and Daryl. Dad wasn't just my dad. He was basically co-doing life with me. A week before he passed, I received a very strange package in the mail that I opened immediately. Handwritten. Inside was a portable battery for my cell phone. That's it. With a sticky note labeled, Oy vey. Please keep this with you at all times. This could be a lifesaver. Charge it up. It works great. That's all it was. A sticky note and a battery. That was Dad. The dad of dads. He would often check my phone battery life throughout the day on our shared life 360 app. And if someone in our house dipped below the 20% mark, he would immediately pick up the phone and remind us that we needed to charge our phone. And of course, Jess and I know this well, that if we were going to meet him somewhere, he would call us upon arriving at any random parking lot and assign us a parking spot before we arrived. Not just anywhere, but somewhere safe and close to his car. He never stopped looking out for us, even in the smallest ways. Dad had a deep love for the simple things. His family, his friends, his wife, his children, his dogs, and of course, a solid manager. As he would say, because well-groomed hands matter. He cherished Aunt Lil's and Leader Jess's apple pie, challenging trivia, could spot a misplaced comma from a mile away, and believed in triple toasted rye bread was the only correct way to eat it. He dominated trivia nights. He sipped his hot coffee exclusively from a styrofoam cup, fancy months work for amateurs. He cheered and criticized the Dodgers like they could actually hear him through the TV, and he of course thought he would be a much better coach than Coach Robert. A great golf round made his day with Daryl, but Mom's homemade cooking made his life. FaceTime calls from Leo and Hen were the highlight of his week. Poker nights with the guys were sacred. And plain dark chocolate ice cream with no toppings ever needed was his all-time favorite treat. And when the day was done, sitting out back with a cigar and video poker on his phone was all he really needed. His life was a collection of these little moments, laughing, loving, and triple toasting his way through. Lastly, if he could leave us with parting dad advice, which he would do, here's what he would say. To Jeffrey. What's wrong with the kindness part? Okay, here we go. To Jeff. Keep working hard. Be a good husband and have babies. They will grow up to be your best friends. And also the tiny humans who will one day boss you around. I boss you around every day. Your dad will be so proud. To Jess and Brian, keep making music. Keep investing in crypto, Brian. Hopefully with better life than most people. And most importantly, when my little Leo becomes the Jeopardy champion of the world and invents something that changes this world, figure out a way to let me know. We all know this is happening, so let's plan accordingly. To my bud, Daryl. Call 5 new customers today. Yes, 5, not 4. And for the love that is holy, stop letting Leanne allowing the kids to order Uber Eats every night. Money is wasted. It's disappearing faster than my hairline did. Visit your customers across the country. Call your mother more. And most importantly, keep golfing. Work on your short game. Remember, patience is a virtue. Though I never quite mastered that myself. To my Dylan. Where's Dylan? Dylan. It's Stuart here. Soda Pop. Chief Broken Back. My dad fell off a trampoline 30 years ago, trying to impress us and broke his back. And then he fell off a chair two Thanksgivings ago, and Dylan thought it was the funniest thing ever. Hey, Dad, Chief broke his back. And then he broke again. Listen closely, Dylan. Do not sell your stock anymore. The markets go up and the markets go down. But you're in it for the long haul. You're a young kid. Oh, and no gambling. That's what I do. Seriously, I'm watching you. Save your money. And be nice to your brother and your sister. One day, the Lily's going to control your healthcare. And Henry's going to be playing for the Dodgers. So you don't want to give them any reason to cut you out of this. To my Lily, always remember, you are my favorite granddaughter. I love you. Keep Champ and Molly well fed. Well, maybe not Molly, a Champ. They are family, even if they occasionally eat things they shouldn't. One day you're going to be ready for the whole family. So watch what Mom and your beloved Aunt Linda did closely. Take notes. You're the boss lady. You're our little Linda. So don't you ever forget it. To Hanky. Where's Hanky? Hanky. Keep swinging that bat and never take your eye off the ball. I expect to see you from heaven in your Dodger uniform. So don't let me down. Keep practicing your multiplication tables first. They will come in handy, I promise. And never stop smiling. Take care of Naughty. You're the favorite. Keep being our funny kids. You're the heart of this team. To our little beloved Leo, where are you? He's outside. Okay, we love you. Leo. SpaceX and OpenAI are basically waiting for you. There's a desk with your name on it there already. So keep working hard. Dream big. Be happy. You're a rock star kid with an exceptional vocabulary. Seriously, the words you know are absurd. And one day there's going to be a rocket ship with your name on it. To all of us, say I love you. Hug tighter. Laugh louder. And don't sweat the small stuff. Help each other. That's what this life is really all about. Our dad went out a winner. The winner. A 3-time over championship winner. And while he never got that elusive hole-in-one, he was our one. The best one. I know this is maybe not good to end on, but the night my dad passed was a tragedy for our family. We weren't lucky enough to have somebody in hospice care and get to say goodbye. And I was in a panic. And I called my Aunt Kathy and my Uncle Mark and my Aunt Mary though. And within 10 minutes, they were to my mother. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. They got to my mother. And I just want you, the three of you, to know how much I love you. And how much I thank you. And I'll never for my entire life forget that. So, anyways, thank you all for being here. I know some people flew in from out of town. Neil surprised his brother. He came from Montana. Jeffrey's here from New Mexico. We had lots of families. They came all the way from the East Coast. My mom's beloved, one very best friends. We used to go on ski trips around the world. Becky's here. We have people that just really showed up. This could have been 300-400 people if we had opened the doors, but we just wanted it to be the people that knew Dad and that Dad loved. And I think we fulfilled that today. So, everybody, thank you so much for that.
Hello, everyone. Take a deep breath. I'm going to sort of kick off the next phase of me speaking and make it short and sweet. I'm Ryan Lang, Ryan Van Valen's son-in-law. And I share that privilege with Darren, who's also Don's son. And I wanted to share with you the experience of the Alan's son. Um, I think just hearing a little bit of laughter makes me know what to say, but please, when you guys come up to speak, don't hold back any funny stories. Alan was a funny guy. We connected on humor, we shared so many jokes, and it was just so easy to make silly jokes and funny jokes and intelligent jokes with Alan. I think those were his favorite jokes. The puns. And what I want to say about being his son-in-law was that I didn't really realize it until he was gone, that he had provided me with the template of how to be. My father passed away in 2006, and he was a role model and a good leader. But I had not had someone who was like a patriarch in my meeting for many years. And now that Alan is not with us, I feel like I had a window into what it is to be later on in life, what it is to be a caring, older patriarch of them. Because what I saw was someone who was there for his family 100% of the time in a way that he made look easy and look crazy. And I think you're going to hear lots more stories about that. But just in the general sense that is something that I know I'll be able to take with me for the rest of my life as I shows my 70s and 80s hopefully. I will be thinking of how Alan was in those years that I knew him and how well he was. That's true. And I don't know how much there's inherent of Alan's love for grammar, but you're remembering us in Asian. You know, but didn't more appreciate you by time than something. But that is something that I wanted to mention. Thanks so much. I just thought that grammar is indeed the theme here today. So, I think I want to say for coming out to speak. This is a good, as the resident AV here today, this is a good place to hold the mic so you can all hear you. And just be comfortable here amongst friends and family and who all knew Alan and love Alan. And
Thank you, Brian.
Hi. This is the great thing about what the just did is that everyone can be as long-winded or as brief as they want. That was everything. That was absolutely everything. And Leanne has done absolutely everything. No, from through all of this, and I swear I tried. This what it was already done. It was already done. No, she just said I'm sorry to me. No, that's what I'm saying. I want to say thank you. Thank you. She said. Because our relationships with him were different in so many ways, and yet exactly the same in the core of everything that she talked about. And I I get emotional, obviously, always, and during this especially, but even more so when talking about Uncle Gene and Jeffrey, and that's just what's been striking me. I wanted to share, like, my husband and what it was like to be his son-in-law, what it was like to be his daughter, though I think, we did that pretty well. It doesn't elude me how lucky we are, all of us here, who have my dad included, that we're here honoring my dad and honoring his passing. And
I feel this is for me. Like I'm honoring my Uncle Gene. That's how Leanne and I were my son's age when he passed away, and having no understanding of what it meant to have his nephew on the way as well. And what I want to thank my dad for today is the way he endured that, felt it. I knew at the time how sad he was and how deep it was. He didn't hide that from me, but he did protect me from. It wasn't scary. It wasn't scary to watch him be sad, and the way he remembered his brother, and the way he included you in our lives. And I'm sorry because I just realized today that you're my brother. I never had a brother. And I don't know why it took you 45 years or 40 years to figure that out, but I'm really grateful. I'm so glad that you're here, and that love, the love between my dad and his brother and his sister and the family that they came from, you shared with us always. And I hope that my sister and me and my mom can really come back together and show him that we need to come together. And I can't fight up. Yeah, I wanted you to. I want no. I wanted to say that balance, and we've heard from years and years and years ago, Jessica's college friends, one of whom her best friend is here, Morgan, and that they have all. This is 20 some years ago, and they've all written. No, I mean just from visiting and going to the concerts, and they embrace Kat. They love Kat, and maybe when she's ready. No, I can listen. What it was like to be Alan's daughter, and what it was like was exactly what she said. It was always, and it was constant, and it was surprising to me after he passed. Friends of mine that I haven't spoken to in 15 years, reaching out to me, telling me that they heard and how their memories of him. And he was always there. And this was something I've told my mom my whole life, and it's the last thing that I'll leave you with. Everyone knows my dad traveled a lot when we were kids. Famously, the cliche was he was gone 6 months out of the year. I don't think it was really exactly that. I mean, he traveled like a lot, and I knew that. I remember knowing that my dad traveled a lot. But as an adult now, looking back, what I can tell you is that my dad was always there. He was there for every. I'm sure. Not technically. I'm sure there was a gymnastics meet once that he didn't make it to because they were like every weekend. But I don't remember that. I just remember he was always there every week, every show, every graduation, every big event, every birthday. So he was the boss. He was planning everything, but he couldn't control when seasons were or when trade shows were or what. He never missed that. And that's how I know that we were always the most important thing to him. And it never would have been any other way. It's not because I'm me and I'm so special, or she's Leanne and she's so wonderful. He would have done that for any of you. You were his children, and he did that for love. You, even though you were. And my baby keeps coming to cover me. That's who I am. Yes, you may. My son. Yeah.
I just love Papa because he taught me how to play chess. And even though I don't like it anymore, I love it.
That was great.
You know, a lot of stuff my mom already said, but that's just because she can do it. I've been treading this day for as long as I can remember, and I don't really know where to start or what to say. because no words will ever express how much I care and love for my papa. He was such an amazing person, and I would do anything to get from my child. One of my favorite memories is sitting in the backyard with him while I smoked one of his cigars. We were talking about school and how he was doing. I would give anything just for one more conversation with him. He always helped me with my papers and essays, corrected my grammar, even when I didn't even ask him. Every time we were in the car, he would give me random spelling challenges, making words so ridiculous I didn't even know they existed. And I missed that so much. We also played this game in the car called the Quiet Game. I played it at Finland. Everyone, he would turn on classical music, and it would just be whoever stayed the quiet song was won. And I feel like we probably only did that because we talked to them. Another really good memory I have is him teaching me how to play poker in the house in Camarillo. And I think one of the things he was never ready for was to me to kick his butt. Life will never be the same without him. But I want to thank everyone for coming today to honor his memory and celebrate him. Papa, thank you for always being there for me and picking up my surfboard. I really like it. And for being one of the kindest, most loving people I've ever known. I will never forget you, and I will never stop loving you. And I always know I will be your favorite granddaughter. And thank you for teaching my dad how to run his business. Because one day in the future, it will be mine.
Ecclesiastes, best known verses from that book. But there being a time to be born, a time to die, and so on. There's a much less well-known verse from Ecclesiastes, and it starts off quite beautifully and poetically in the original Hebrew, saying, Tov Shem, Mishem Tov. A good name is better than fine oil. And in the very next line, it says, the day of death is better than the day of birth. So as you can imagine, the rabbis struggled to understand what Kohelet, traditionally thought to be the wise King Solomon, was trying to teach us. And they sought to explain it by means of a parallel. And they imagined their port with ships coming in and ships leaving. And for the ship that was leaving, there was this great bon voyage party with celebration, confetti, champagne, and song and joy. And for the ship that was coming back into the port, yeah, there was people there to greet it, but by and large, no great celebration. And a man on the point said, this doesn't make sense to me. The ship that's leaving, who knows what kind of journey we'll have? Will it see calm seas? Will it see troubled seas? The news of recent years and of 100 years ago remind us that not all cruises then happen. But when a ship has successfully navigated the hazards of sea travel and come back to its port, that's really what we should celebrate. And so it is with the human life. When a baby is born, we all celebrate. And of course, it's natural and appropriate to do so. But in point of fact, no one knows what kind of life this new life will be. Will it be a life of inspiration? Will it be a life of humor? Will it be a life of teaching? Will it be a life of so many stories, along with a few broken bones? And I know, Leanne and others talk about how she dread this day. But what the rabbis are saying is, on this day, we appreciate a life so beautifully lived. Judaism is a religion and a tradition which focuses on the life goal. While we hope that there is an afterlife, and this is big news to many Jewish friends of mine, we simply don't know the details because no one's come back to tell us. The traditional rabbinic belief is that God is a Mechayim HaMetiv, literally one who restores life to the dead, and the day of the coming of the Messiah, that is a physical resurrection. The mystics, the Kabbalists, talk what they call Gilgulei Nefashot, literally the turning of souls. That is a reincarnation. That our souls, when we die, go to a storehouse of souls in heaven, and they are then reborn into a different life to continue their work and their learning. And there is a beautiful teaching associated with this, not only from the Jewish students of Kabbalah, but Buddhists and Hindus that embrace the idea of reincarnation, that groups of souls hang out together. So I hope you all like each other because if they're right, then you're destined to hang out together in future Gilguls, in future incarnations. In this one, you may be a daughter and father, and the next one you may be a student and teacher, cousins, who knows what. Don't ask me how they know this. I can have a foggiest idea. The rabbis of the Talmud spoke of the idea of communication between worlds. And I, who was a physicist in my first career, someone for whom mysticism and spirituality do not come naturally believing, I've seen too many examples of communication between worlds to deny that possibility. And so began 3 times a day. If you're quiet enough, if you're still enough, you can speak to him. He will speak to you. And yes, he will be watching out for his grandchildren, wearing that Dr. uniform. This I believe. And the trick is to be quiet enough and still enough and to watch for signs. Ultimately, we Jews hold that God has entrusted to us the care of God's word. We trust our souls to God and the next world to care for us. Alan's life is 81 years. Is a beautiful example of life building. So was we just imagine to remember him and the amazing lessons in living that we have learned from. And when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, God, are with us, a loving friend and leader of trust. You are the light of our life, our hope and eternity. Bless those of you able and comfortable with rising, please rise to it and mount around you. El Adonai Rachami, Sholem Babromi, Tam Segel Sanatona, Tachat Kanfei, Pashkina, Im Kedoshim Ori, Kezohar Rakia, Mazgirim, Et Nishman, Avraham Shalom Bet Yaakov, Shahalas, Lo Lo. Ba'al harachamim, yastirei v'seker benafal, la'olamim, v'yitzro, v'yitzro b'chayim, v'nishmato, Adonai hu, nachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom, al yishkavo, v'nomar, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Alan's border, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bottom of everlasting life. God is his inheritance, make him rest in peace. Let us say together, Amen.
Amen.
While we're standing, we will be reciting the one Kaddish, and I know there are copies of the Kaddish on the page at B. And the Kaddish is worth mentioning mentioning key words. Although it looks like Hebrew and it sounds like Hebrew, the Kaddish Home, the Morning Kaddish, is actually written in Aramaic, the language of the rabbis 2,000 years ago. And I believe they wrote it in their common language because they wanted us to be sure we understand what we are saying. So for those of you whose Aramaic is a little rusty, at the bottom of this page is a translation of the Kaddish. As you glance at the translation, you'll notice that there's no mention of death and dying or sadness. It is a poem of praises and consolations to God. So the question once again, why are we praising God at times like this? And one answer has to do with the background, as I mentioned earlier. Another is the mystic's idea, the Kabbalist's idea, that Alan's journey from this world to the next, and to higher and higher levels in the next world, is aided and assisted by people praising God in his name. That's why you recite the Kaddish at your site on the anniversary of Someone's Castle, and actually 4 times a year on Yisro. But there is, I think, a more beautiful understanding for this prayer. And I believe it speaks to the central teaching of Judaism, which is God could have created a perfect world. A world with no death, a world with no disease, a world with no anger, a world with no poverty, a world with no war, a world with no bad hair days. Absolutely perfect. But if we lived in such a world, what would our job be? Wouldn't be teachers, wouldn't be accountants, wouldn't be lawyers, wouldn't be rabbis, wouldn't be plumbers, wouldn't be people who work in the fields. We would have nothing to do. But the Torah teaches we are created in Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. Therefore, we must have serious ethical productive work to do. And when someone dies and they go to the next life in the heavens, as wonderful, as fantastic, as amazing as heaven may be, it's only in this world that Alan will do God's work. That Alan is sent by God, and we are sent by God. The central teaching of Judaism is to be God's messengers to the divine world. The Hebrew word for messenger is malach. It's the same as the Hebrew word for angel. So it's not only we, his friends and family, that need comforting and consolation. Having lost Alan in this world with God too needs comforting and consolation. Having lost such amazing angels doing the divine work in this world. And we do so in the ancient Aramaic words, the Kedisha. I invite you to recite with me, and you get full credit if you say one Hebrew word, amen. At the end, the word amen comes from the Hebrew word emunah, which means faith. By saying amen at the end of a blessing, you get full credit. Yitgadal, the Yitgadal, Shemay Rabba. The Allah, the Rat, the Ritay, the Amanim, the Ritay. But I come with you on the phone, over the cold bait, Israel. Ba'alav is one, Kareem, the Imru, Yehesh May Rabban Gora, Leolam Lamay Omaya. Yitzhak, Yishlach, the Bahar, Zoma, Yitzhak, the Hadar, the Aleh, the Talal, Shmei, the Shah, Rick, La Elamin, Kol, Virkata, the Shirata, Tushla, the Netamasa, Damiran, the Almavi, and Rumay. Yehesh Lama, Rabbamin, Shemai. The Chaim, Alayna, the Alkol, Israel, the Imru, Omaya. Oseh Shalom Ben Rama, Yahaseh Shalom, Alain Yahweh Israel, V'yivaru Amen. May there be abundant peace from heaven and life for us, for all Israel, and for all the world. And may the one who creates harmony on earth bring the world peace, to which we say, Amen. Amen. I'll just add my thanks to all of you for coming today, and my personal thanks to this family for allowing me the big honor of playing this role in your lives, in our services.
And I'd like to give a very special thank you to Rabbi Wagner and Shmuel for his
We are so glad to see you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.